All right, here we are, breaking the algorithm, episode number 1. My friend, we've got a huge guest today, 360, long time in between chats, but welcome, my friend.
Man, thank you for having me. Honor to be number one.
I know, man, how exciting. Again, this is going to be a big one. This podcast, it's all about disrupting the patterns, the systems that sort of dictate our behavior and sort of frame our reality, and trying to show people that there are alternatives and how to outsmart some of the worst parts of ourselves. And having you on as number one is going to be a cracker, man, because I know that you've had an incredible journey, lots of success, trials, tribulations, and man, I want to get into all of it. So again, thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.
Mate, so let's talk a little bit about, first and foremost, what's one rule or belief that you had to unlearn over the last 5 years to take everything to the next level? Because since we last chatted, man, lots changed for you, lots.
Probably that if you don't want to be a victim to your circumstances, then you have to be the one to change it. You have to change the way you think about things. Like, for such a long time there, I was like, kept tripping up and just kept falling. And it's like I started feeling sorry for myself and wanting everyone else to feel sorry for me. And it was like I was waiting for someone to come and pull me out of it. And that you learn over a period of time that no one's coming. You have to pull yourself out. So that was the biggest thing for me, is learning I have to switch up my thinking, stop being such a victim, and yank myself out of the darkness. And that's definitely helped.
Yeah, I love that. Often though, it takes time, right? As you just said, it doesn't happen instantaneously, right? What was that catalyst for you, man, to really go from maybe victim mentality and waiting and hoping something would just magically change to saying, no, fuck that, I'm taking control of my situation, my life, and turning things?
I think everything had just spiraled so much, and I put on so much weight. I was really, really depressed. I'd stopped going to the gym, and I just was not doing well at all. And I was on really, really hectic drugs, like medication, like methadone and these really hectic benzodiazepines and stuff like that. And I just reached a point where I was like, I'm just so over this. Like, this is ruining my life. And if I don't get on top of this, I'm going to die, kind of thing. So it was a process of going to rehab for 4 months. That was a big one, to really get off the methadone, because that was so difficult. It was such, that shit is poisonous, man. Getting off that really took some time, and it was like going through war, you know. And then also, I think the real important part was doing therapy. So unpacking where or why I was using in the first place, where all my issues come from, and really, really getting to the nuts and bolts of why I was using drugs, but not doing that for too long. I think therapy is a really good tool, but I think in a lot of cases it can, if it's like extended and consistent. I know this was for me anyway. That kept me in victimhood. So it became, for me, it got to the point where I was like, well, I think I've learnt all that I can about my issues. Now I have to go beyond it and get past it all, instead of just talking about it all the time. It was almost like drawing it out and wallowing in it. So then I went from going to the therapist to like seeking a life coach, which was not something I'd ever thought I would do. But it was such a good move, man. It was like going from learning about your issues to being like, these issues don't define who you are, and this is how you can get across that, or get ahead of those issues. So I found this real awesome dude called Anthony Nowden. Went to town with him probably over the last, I think it's been 2 or 3 years.
Unreal, man.
And I was dealing with a lot of people pleasing. I really cared what other people thought about me too much, that it would it would dictate how I move and how I operate as a person.
Yeah.
So he helped me get past a lot of that. We spent years really trying to kill that people pleaser and just try and stop seeking validation from people and only care about what I thought or, you know, what God thinks now, fast forward to now.
Yeah.
So that's been the process for me. And also just getting on top of the health and fitness, you know.
Yeah.
Being healthy and getting on top of the diet.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. So coaching was a real big catalyst to breaking the algorithm for you.
Big one.
Yeah.
Massive, man. Like that difference between a therapist and a coach is night and day.
Yeah, totally, man. And that's a really good point. I think, you know, when you're at the stage where you've dealt with that deeper trauma, so to speak, and those underlying emotions, the coaching can really help redirect you on the more aspirational and taking control and charging forward elements of your life, right? Which you obviously did. So from a timeline perspective, when was Rehab? When did that happen?
Rehab was 2020.
Yeah.
So it was just before COVID was kicking off. It was like, it was a thing, but it wasn't a big thing.
Yeah.
Which was bizarre, dude. It was like going into rehab for 4 months and then coming out, it was like the world had changed.
Wow.
I came out while it was stage 4 lockdowns.
Yeah.
So it was really, really weird, man.
That's a trip. That would have been bizarre.
It was really bizarre. It's like everything had just flipped on its head. And it was like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And it was a blessing and a curse. Like getting out while it was so hectic lockdowns was like, it was good in a way because I didn't want to see anyone because I felt so just unwell. I was just sick and I needed to recover. I needed to spend some time finding myself and getting my confidence back.
Yeah.
I'd really lost that confidence, that belief in myself. I thought that, you know, I was just a shell of my former self. And then it's like since 2020 and then 2021, I've just been really, really working hard at trying to get healthy again and build myself back up and get on top of my life.
Yeah, totally, man. Coming out during COVID, as we spoke on the way up here, COVID was a crazy time for everybody. I didn't realize that you came out of rehab at that time. Was it more challenging because you're trying to deal with your own mindset and emotions layered with the toxic TV and the way people were behaving and the craziness of that time? Was that a negative challenge coming out?
Yeah, it was. Like it was, I didn't know what to really think and I had so much self-doubt going on. Like when it came to the vaccines, man, I didn't want to get them. My whole body, all my instinct, my intuition was going, don't do this.
Same.
And I had blown through so much of my money. I got offered this gig and to fly you had to be vaccinated. So I was like, what do I do? And they were like, you're being paranoid to not want to get a vaccine. You know, you're listening to people you shouldn't, misinformation and all that. So I ended up getting it. And that was something I feel like was one of the worst decisions I've made. Like over the next couple months, I started getting this crazy chest pain.
Oh, wow.
I went to the ER twice thinking I was having some sort of heart attack or something.
Wow, man.
Which I'd never had. I've always had anxiety. I've always dealt with like anxiety through most of my life. And I'd go to the ER and I'd tell them that I've got this like bizarre squeezing in my chest. It felt like someone was gripping my heart with hands that had electrical like pulses in them or something.
Man, intense.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
And it was this constant pressure. And then randomly my heart would just start beating out of time.
Yeah.
And I'd freak out. And then I went to the ER and they were like, this is just anxiety. It's in your head. And I'm like, it's not. Like I wasn't actually anxious.
Yeah.
I was just like, what is happening? A bit scared. And I got all these tests done. I went to all these different specialists and stuff like that. And they reckon they couldn't find anything, but that made me really start questioning my sanity, because they were like saying it's in your head, you know, you're just making this up.
Oh.
So I came across a good friend of mine, Michelle. She's a photographer. She caught pericarditis from the vaccine.
Yeah,
Really rocked her.
Wow.
Really messed her up. And she went through a similar experience to me, where she was going to the hospital and, you know, presenting all these symptoms, and they were like, it's in your head, it's anxiety. But then they made her jump through all these hoops of like testing and stuff. And then she ended up getting this test that showed that she had pericarditis. And I know she asked if I had that one done, and I said they didn't do that one. So it was like, I don't know if I just didn't get the right ones or something. But I know of so many other people that had issues as well.
Yeah.
Like it spurred on shingles type immune responses for a friend of mine, where he could barely move and he had all these rashes all over his body.
Wow.
I know another dude who was like, after 30 days after the AstraZeneca, he had a heart attack and died.
Yeah, I had a friend whose father had the same experience and passed away.
Yeah, and I know it's like a lot of people about how can you say it's definitely the vaccine, and it's like, I get that and I understand that. You can't definitely say it is, but at the same time, when you see a lot of people dropping at the same time as this happening, you just put two and two together. But the reason I found that it was probably one of the worst decisions I made, not just that and all the darkness that I went through, I think I learnt that when your intuition is trying to tell you to do something and you don't, you ignore it, I feel like that's a real form of self-betrayal.
For sure.
And
great point.
That is what I've learnt, is like, always trust your gut and trust what your body's trying to tell you. Yeah, so that was really rough. And since then, I feel like there's been a lot that's come out about the jibby jabs, you know, like they even admitted in, like, I remember they were like, you need to get it to protect your family. Because my parents are elderly, it was like, all right, that kind of convinced me, like, you know, if it protects them, then I'll do it. But then they came out and said, well, it doesn't actually stop transmission. And they admitted that they knew that the entire time.
Totally.
But they said that it did. It's like, there's so much about it that has been coming out, revealing that it was just, a lot of it was based on lies.
Yeah.
And the way we spoke about this in the car, the way they were banning professionals in the field from discussing other things, like other therapeutics or anything else other than the vaccine, or criticizing the vaccine, anything like that. They were just flat out banning and just being little tyrants about it. It's like, if you don't go along with our way, then you can't go any other way.
Totally.
And then to find out that it's because to have the funding and to have the emergency use approval, or whatever it was called, there couldn't be any other use. There couldn't be other therapeutics they could use, or they couldn't invoke that emergency use.
Exactly.
So that coming out was also another big thing. It just seems like it was like, people say, well, they meant well, you know, they were trying to just get past this COVID the COVID stuff and just heal everyone. But it just seems like at the same time it was a big money grab.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. I think no matter what side you align with, it's blatantly clear we were fed a lot of lies.
Yes.
You have to admit that at this stage. Even I don't know if you watched the Rogan Zuckerberg interview, but Zuckerberg came out and said that he literally had to lie and block truth because of what the government said. So it's wild, man. It was a wild time, and unfortunately, I think we saw individuals' true colors across the board. We also spoke about this, seeing the shift in people, just me personally, I was trying to make sense of it and just not even attacking, but speaking my mind or looking at certain data points and speaking about it, and just seeing the blatant disrespect thrown towards me, or a lot of people cutting me off as well, was wild to see that people had that in them through that time.
The propaganda was so strong.
Oh, totally.
Like, I remember when it first came out, and China had released all these videos of people dying in the street and all these like body bags and stuff that turned out to be fake.
Fake, yeah.
Man, and then so like I know a lot of people who like lost friendships, family members who cut people because they didn't get the jabs, and it was like just so hectic. It was like and then since haven't really come back to reality. They're just still trying to exist in that realm, but not listening to what the truth. It's like they're not interested in the truth. They're only interested in defending their worldview.
Yeah, people don't want to be wrong. They don't want to admit they're wrong. One of the craziest things, I don't know if you remember this, like Koshi and that on Channel 7, talking about doing full presentations on how to not invite the unvaccinated to your Christmas dinner, like giving instructional, educational pieces online about it. I was just like, I cannot believe what I'm watching right now. Is this really what the world has come down to?
Wow. Did that actually happen, man?
Totally. Yeah, totally, man. It was fucking insane.
Oh, can you remember the White House put out a thing saying it's going to be a severe winter of death for the unvaccinated?
Oh, man, just fear-mongering across the board. It was constant fear-mongering.
Man, wild. And then to find out, well, I think a lot of people knew that it was like 99% well, I can't remember the survival rate. It was crazy.
Yeah, 99.8% survival rate or something like that.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane. The same, almost identical to the survival rate of the flu.
Yeah.
Which again
magically disappeared.
That's right. Totally. A lot of coincidences through this time. It was wild. It was wild. Yeah, my business partner actually sent me a funny video, a collection of the Queensland, the government that was in power in Queensland at the time, and she's sitting there saying, "It will hunt you down and it will kill you." Like, just the intense fear mongering that was going on was incredible. It was mind blowing. I've never seen anything like it.
I'd like to know if they actually believed that. Like, were they whipped up into a frenzy so badly that they believed what they were saying, or was there financial incentive?
I think that I don't think that they believed it, to be honest.
Wow.
I think they were instructed, but I guess we'll never know. You know. Although, who knows what? Maybe we'll see something exciting on Twitter come out where more truth is revealed. We'll see how it all goes.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff keeps coming out. So hopefully, man, I would love to see some sort of accountability, or just someone just acknowledge that they were wrong.
Totally. There needs to be for sure. I mean, you can't have things like that happen across the world. We need choice. We need to be able to decide to take control of our health, and we can't be forced into things like that. I think that's been clear for a very long time, and so many medical rules had been broken through that phase where we were forced to take things we didn't want to take.
Yeah, and the way they have ruined a lot of people's trust, like, it's like we were talking before, it's a silver lining to it, because a lot of people are really like watching out for this kind of stuff now. It's not as tribal and automatically just follow what the people say. In different institutions, people are more like questioning now, and yeah, it's good to see. But
for sure,
we had to go through a bit of a like almost war-like propaganda for that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like I was lucky during that time. I didn't take it, and I didn't have the pressure to take it because I could run my own businesses, you know what I mean? So from that regard, I guess I was lucky, but still, we all lost. No one won, everybody lost.
Yeah.
Whether you took it or you didn't take it, you suffered the consequences because, we became the black sheep. We were frowned upon. I had business partners turning on me, I was getting bombed. I lost so many followers on Instagram and social media.
Oh,
I was
really?
getting abused constantly. It was fucking
For speaking out about it.
Speaking out, yeah, because I was holding some
good on you for doing
events.
it, though.
Yeah, totally, man, totally. But it's to your point that you said earlier. When you have that intuition, if you're not sort of invoking the courage at that time and you're leaning into it, you lose confidence and faith in yourself. And that's something I've learned. Not only in that situation, in many situations in business and in life. And I think that's a really good point for everybody, a cool gold nugget just for good living, in breaking the algorithm and owning your reality. It's like, if you stand for something and you know it to be your truth or true, you fucking fight for that truth. You know, you don't take no for an answer, and you stand your ground.
Yeah.
And then through that process, you earn confidence, right? It's the same in like business or, you know, getting back on the stage. Unless you do it and you're showing up, you're never going to earn those bricks of confidence, right?
So well said, man. Like that, if you don't listen to your gut and trust it, you will just lose respect for yourself. And then you'll fall so far behind, you've got no respect for yourself. And the only way to do that is by doing the hard thing, is like trusting when your intuition is telling you something and acting on it. And also, if you're like a people pleaser like I used to not say anything to people. I'd be dodging confrontation. I wouldn't want to rub them the wrong way, so I wouldn't say what I think. So you've got to start doing those sort of things, and it takes, like, you do it in little short bursts here and there, and then you learn to just do it naturally, and then eventually you get that self-respect back, and you can look at yourself in the mirror again and respect who you see, which is what happened with me, man. Like, for a while there, I was just not saying what I needed to say, and not the person that I should have been, and I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. There was just shame there, a lot of self-loathing going on from that, and then had to spend years building that back.
I think flexing courage, it feeds you more confidence and strength. The more courage you flex, it takes courage to evoke courage, but through every action that inspires courage, you become more confident, you gain strength internally in so many different ways. And it changes everything, man. To your point, even around conversations, you know, it's like, I call it progressive overload with anything, like handling fear or trying to tackle any huge, scary thing. Like, little by little, first have that small conversation, then you have it with another person. Then all of a sudden you're able to gracefully have these direct conversations that then change your whole fucking life instantaneously, because you're speaking your truth. And when you are that individual and you embody those characteristics, you attract high quality people that don't fucking backstab you. That, you know, that level of integrity is different with individuals that have the courage to speak their truth and communicate adequately, right?
That's so true, man. I felt that during COVID. Like, I remember seeing people speaking out about it. I really admire that. I remember when Novak Djokovic like resisted the vaccine and just had everyone booing him and stuff. I was like, I admire this, like the way he was standing by his guns, man, sticking to his guns. And I feel like that's admirable. Like, before, back then, I would have been way too scared to talk about the vaccines and stuff like that, out of fear of what might happen and how people might react. But it's gotten to the point now, it's just like, I don't really care what they think anymore. Like, I'll just say what I think and what is true to me, and that's all.
It brings you peace, man. It brings you peace. And I think, you know, to that point, I feel like it's so much better to just stand for something and speak your truth and let the 50% fade away, and you get tighter with the 50% that either may not fully agree, but at least appreciate the mindset and who you are. But I think your lifestyle and your mindset is so much stronger and better when you just have good individuals around you, not these fair weather, flaky individuals, right? And that's one of the blessings through that period for me, was that there was this huge, like, I guess, fade away or appealing or a renewal of who I was, but also who was around me. And I could really see, you know, who would stick by me, even whether, if they agree with me or not, it didn't matter. But did they change with me? Did their mentality change? Were they rude? Did they block me? Did they turn on me? Even if I'd done, you know, we had a great relationship or millions of favors had been done previously, they still, you know, could turn away like that. And I thought to myself, fuck, this is really sad, but what a blessing, man. What a gift that I can now see the truth, you know, and be around individuals with the same mentality and at least the same moral integrity, you know?
Yeah, that's a healthy way to look at it, hey? Because, like, you don't want those kind of people around, but why can't we just be in a society where even if we disagree, we can just coexist and respect one another?
Totally.
Like, people take disagreement as a personal attack.
Yeah.
Or like hate.
Yeah.
But it's not that. You just disagree, just move on.
You can have discourse without disrespect and have communication to find a middle ground / solution. You know, this is what I thought the world was built on. Democracy was built on, life was built on. But yeah, I think we had a bit of a rude awakening during that period.
The tribalism and the way it became about ideology and not really about what was good for people or what was true. It was really bizarre, man.
Felt like a big social experiment, to be honest. Sometimes I was like, it was hard to believe. There were some just moments where I was like, I'm fully shocked. I've got nothing to say. I don't know how this could be the reality right now.
Yeah, it was bizarre. It was like a movie. It was strange, man.
Yeah. I love the point you made, bro, about keeping promises to yourself to earn confidence, right? And I think, you know, as men, especially men and women, this goes for everybody, but we're both male, so we'll speak to the male gender, that as men, when we know we need to do the hard thing or face a fear or keep a promise to ourselves and we don't, it has soul-shattering effect that I don't think we recognize until right down the track, until it's way too late. And that could be promising that we're not going to drink, or promising that we're not going to indulge in that vice, or promising that we're going to do something that scares us and not do it. You know what I mean? And so that sounds like that's been a big shift for you in regards to who you are now and who you were before. It's that you're really taking your commitments and promises to yourself fucking seriously. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it was like for a while there, I was just being navigated by fear, and I would let that steer the ship. If I feared it, I would just run away and just stick to my little comfort zone at home around my family, and then that was it. And I was like, after rehab and trying to put my life together and that, I was trying to get my career going again. And I had just lost all this confidence and belief in myself that all I had was doubt. You know, I had no more belief that I used to almost have this superhuman belief that no one could stop me. And that had just disappeared, man. So I was like, I need to get my career going again. I've been blessed with these talents. I need to utilize them. I need to get it all going. So I was working on music, but like the fear of putting myself out there again was like so palpable. It was crippling. I was genuinely like really messed up. And I think it was also going through that COVID stuff. I was questioning my sanity, all of that. I just had so much doubt. And I thought, I started working on these songs, and the songs were cool. And I thought, if I put them out, it's going to be the end of my career. It's just going to ruin it. So I was like, I might as well not. I'll just wait till they're perfect. But that's never going to happen. So I was like, I had to promise myself, however these songs turn out, I'm just going to release them regardless, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to actually releasing them, I put them out. They weren't like incredible, but they were cool. And I put them out, and the response was the opposite to what I thought it would be. You know, everyone got around it. The support was really, really awesome. And it was like, instead of you being navigated by fear, I had to use it as a compass. And then if you lean into that fear, it actually, you're rewarded on the other side of it. It's like anything you do, any craft that you start, you're going to be really bad at it. You're going to doubt it. You're going to have mental barriers and stuff like that. But if you push through it and come out the other side, it ends up becoming quite easy. So once I put those 6 songs out that I thought were going to destroy my whole life, like I was literally that over the top about it.
Wow.
And then I was able to tour through 2 quite big tours and get some good money going again, and like go, oh, my career actually isn't dead. I thought it was dead. And everything started coming back again. So it was like, instead of giving into that fear, it's leaning into it and just breaking through, and then you are rewarded on the other side.
Yes, powerful lessons within that, man. I love that. Let's talk about what you just said in regards to like just fucking doing it and releasing or doing, creating something and then rolling with it, whether you feel like it or not, whether you are scared or not. Because, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and we see this all the time where we have this perfectionist mentality and we're obsessed with getting it completely right. We're afraid of judgment, failure, all of these other things. And the reality is that the only way you're going to get a win on the board is doing the fucking do. Whether it's a $1 million success or not, it's going to be a stepping stone to that next thing that might be the thing, whether it's a first win or not. And I think that's such a huge takeaway for people, that, we spend all of this time in self-doubt, in fear, wanting to write the book, wanting to write the song, wanting to build the business, wanting to, find the relationship of our dreams, whatever our fucking dreams are. But so many people are shackled by fear and self-doubt and that judgment. What's your bit of advice to people who are wanting to wanting to do a thing? Everyone's got a dream, right? But they're not taking action because of that fear and self-doubt. What's your bit of advice for those people?
It's so common. It's like, even say if you're podcasting or wanting to be a content creator, whatever it is, if that's your goal, right? If you wait till you're perfect, it's never going to happen.
Totally.
So the best thing to do is just start doing it. Even if it's rough as guts, it's not good. Even if it's not good, just start doing it, because that's the only way you can learn. Literally the only way you can do it. So just start dropping it, even if it's raw, not good quality. And as you go, that's how you learn. And that's how you actually win people, because they'll see that you're authentically going about this thing. You're actually giving it a nudge. You're not just doing it once it's perfect. Like if you come out of the gates doing something unknown, and then it's like this perfect quality out of nowhere, that might work, but that process of going from the ground up is going to get people in, and they're going to see that. And then when they've been on board and see you actually get to when it's like really good quality, they'll be like, that's how you build a cult fan base, you know?
Yeah.
And get people that are super loyal to you no matter what. I think it's just about doing it. It's hard. It is hard though.
Yeah.
Like it takes a lot of balls to just do it knowing that it's going to be pretty shit, you know?
Totally. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I think we've got one life, right? I've always said, I don't want to be that person that wakes up at 80 and looks back at my life and just fucking regrets not having a crack, you know? At bare minimum, no matter what happens, if I don't achieve every single goal I've ever wanted to, I want to make sure that people say, Andy had a fucking crack. No matter what, he had a dip, you know? And that'll be good enough for me. And I want to make sure that that's the constant narrative in my life, no matter what, because I feel like that pain of regret, man, that kills not only dreams, but it kills people.
Yeah. That would kill you, to look back at life and go, I could have done all that, and I was just too scared. Nah.
Totally, man. What scares you now?
What scares me now? Ever since finding God and going real deep with my faith, my fear is losing that connection to God. Like, man, it's been insanely overwhelming, this peace and joy that I've felt ever since like believing the gospel, which was something I never thought would happen. Like, I was very resistant to it, had a lot of cynicism to it, and then it got to the point where I just believed it all, and that wall came down, and ever since then I've been just walking on cloud 9. And I know that it's not about the feeling, like it's not about the feels, because you've got to have faith no matter what, but just keeping the commandments and having like my whole life be centered on God first has just brought this feeling to me that I never thought was possible without drugs. And I don't want to lose that.
Yeah, I love that, man. Tell me how that came about. Like, obviously, you've said this previously, but before you didn't have faith and you were skeptical, or maybe even fully against it. How did you find faith? And then tell us a little bit more about how it's changed your life.
So I haven't been an atheist before. I've always believed in something higher, but I was very, very like anti-religion. I think I believed the way the media portrays Christianity. I believed the caricature of it. I believed that it was, used as an instrument of hate and a tool to divide, and that a lot of the people claiming to be Christians were often hypocritical and weren't living the life they were claiming everyone else should live. I thought it was quite cultish, and everyone seemed brainwashed, and didn't understand how people could make their entire personality Jesus and stuff like that. So I was, when I started working with my coach, he asked me, he goes, dude, do you believe in God? And I'm like, yeah, but not religion. Like, it was very, very much like straight away, no, not that. I told him, I was like, when I was a child, I used to pray. I used to have this unwavering faith that everything would be okay. And it was this strength that I remember as a child being quite vivid, and I felt his presence a lot. And then when I became a teenager and go through puberty, you start thinking other things are much cooler than that, and that's not cool anymore. So I got corrupted along the way and just lost sight of that. He encouraged me to start praying again.
Yeah.
So I started doing that every day, going real deep with it, building a relationship with God. But everything back when I think of it now, the prayers that I was doing were quite self-centered. It was very much about, God, can you get my career back on track? Can you bring me in all this money? Can you find me a missus so I can have a family? It was all very self-focused.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. One of my closest friends, he became born-again Christian in 2022. He escaped from Melbourne, flew up here to Sunshine Coast, and had this profound encounter with God, and came back born again Christian like overnight.
Wow.
He was so transformed by it. And at first I was like, oh, what is this? That cynicism came up, and I was really happy for him because I could see it was like it had just changed him so much for the better. He was a new person. But I was really like, I just don't know about the religion side of it, but good on you kind of thing. Like, I'm really happy for you. And then was telling him how I was going through that journey of praying to a higher power and all that. And he was like, everything God is you're right, but it goes so much deeper. If you go into the gospel with an open mind and just really explore it, and don't judge it based off Christians themselves. Like, don't judge Christ based off the way people portray it, really see what it's about. So I started going in, like, just going to town on the gospel, man, like going back and forth, read it so many times, and I could feel this, like, something was happening. It was like I was starting to really become obsessed with it. And so I went to a church and had this really profound experience, whereas the music started playing and I just dropped down crying, was really emotional, and just felt something that I hadn't felt before, and was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And over the course of probably the last year, maybe, or 6 months, that cynicism just started dropping. And when I knew the story of what Christ did on the cross, I knew it in my head, but once I actually believed it, it was like everything changed. The wall came down, and I was like, this is incredible. Like, it's like having an encounter with God. And that feeling, like, man, all the guilt and shame and self-loathing that I've had in the past was something that I had accepted was a part of my life. Every night I'd go to sleep and I'd just think about all the bad stuff I've done, how I've hurt my family, put them through so much crap, and it would just sit in my head, and I couldn't let it go. I would just ruminate on it, thinking I was a piece of shit, then as soon as I absorbed what Christ did on the cross and truly believed it, all of it just disappeared. I was able to let go of all of it, man. And that was such a big part of it too. It was like, he's actually taken on all of that punishment that I deserve, you know? And after feeling that, it was like, wow, I've got to dedicate the rest of my life to this. Like, I want to, my prayers have changed now to, instead of God serving me, how can I serve God? Like, how can I use the resources that I've been blessed with to help people? And how can I use my platform to be you know, to do it for the ultimate good, to try and bring people to God and try and spread positivity and love. And that's what life has become about now, putting God and Christ at the center and not myself. And it's like, he saved me from myself, I think, you know. I think that's quite often what happens. Like, if you don't worship God, there will be something else. It'll be either money for a lot of people. It can even be gym. It can be family. It can be your kids, you know. And that sounds like it's okay to put your kids first before God, but putting God first doesn't mean you will value your kids any less or value your partner any less or anything like that. It means actually you'll be doing the right thing for them because that's what God wants you to do. And also, like the fitness thing, you'll be looking after your body because that's what you're meant to be doing. You're meant to be taking care of it all. But if you put, say, fitness first or your kids first or anything like that, it'll eventually let you down because everything else is temporary. Everything else apart from God is temporary. So if you've got your fitness first, and it makes sense because it sounds healthy, it's not destructive, but then if you ever have an injury or you plateau or something like that, you'll be lost, like looking for something else to put at the top again. And if it's God, he will never leave you. Like, it's the only time in my life that I've felt this joyful purpose that has actually been sustained. It's like my entire life I've been trying to fill this hole and fill this void in my life with money, with sex, with drugs, with status. That was a big thing as well. And then it became about family. After I got off that hedonistic lifestyle, it became about family and becoming the best version of myself in health, but just realized it was all temporary. Nothing actually filled that hole. And then once I accepted God into my life, it was the only thing that actually gave me actual purpose that hasn't run out. It's only getting stronger as I go, you know, and that's it.
It's crazy, man. And you made such a cool point. That spiritual connection as a consistency to your identity really keeps you bulletproof somewhat, because to your point, when your identity is based around money or businesses or your where your place is in society, whatever that may be, soon as that gets attacked, soon as that gets rocked, what are you? Who are you? You lose yourself, right? And so if you have that consistent pillar, it keeps you so much stronger to be able to weather the storms and move through. And when you have that mentality that everything else truly is transient, except for that connection, I think it gives you a level of strength that most people know they have access to and desire, but potentially haven't recognized at this point, right? Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%, man. It's like that people pleasing that I was working on defeating. I'd gotten rid of most of it, right? But there was still elements of it still there, because I think when you spend years living in that, you just develop habits. And once I accepted God, it was like his approval is the only one that matters. And it's like now I don't care what people think anymore. It's like I only care about doing what's right for him, and that's it. So it's like so liberating, man, to be able to talk about, like, I would have never wanted to talk about half the topics we're speaking about. I would have been so fearful of it, but now there's just no fear whatsoever. It's like, even if this was to get put up online and people were to cause a big outrage, I'd be totally fine with it. I'd probably be like a little bit like, ooh, this is a bit, here we go, you know, but in the end, I've got God, and that if you've got God on your side, who else can be against you?
Totally. Yeah, I love that, man. It's incredible. Tell me a little bit how those values have changed you and your character. Like, what are the character upgrades or shifts that have taken place within you through this journey of sobriety and then finding faith?
It's become very... It's shifted the way I've looked at things, like how I mentioned with the praying, it was all about myself. It's made me look very much, instead of making life all about me and trying to serve me, it was like I was trying to build myself to be the king. And it's just made me want to serve the only king that there is. But looking outward, like it's such a staple part of the gospel, is that the people that the world considers insignificant are very significant to God. So like all the people we would look down on because they've got no status, or they've got no money, or they're homeless, or they're drug addicts and stuff like that, it's very much made me want to try and spend a lot of my time trying to help them and trying to go out of my way to do things for other people. And it says, I think Christ says in the Bible something like, what you do for the least of humanity, you do for God. So that's a good way of serving him, is helping those who everyone else looks down on. You know, that's been a big shift.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. I think one thing that I sort of thought about a lot during the last 5 to 6 years, especially through that COVID phase, was that, you know, a world without those value sets is not a good world at all. You know, like what sort of values does society live by if we don't live by those? You know, what sort of people do we become if we don't believe there's someone watching over us and potential consequences? You know, I think in general, with those beliefs and those sets of values, we become better individuals through that process, stronger individuals and a stronger society as a whole. And to be honest, it scares the shit out of me to think if there was a continued attack on religion as a whole, or just the values. Like, I agree with that point. Not all individuals that are Christians, for example, or religious are the ideal role models.
Nah.
In fact, probably, you know, there's a lot of individuals that are sketchy potentially, or that you don't think embody the truth. But it doesn't take away from the values and the word. And that's a completely different story. And if you truly just leaned into that without looking at all of the other things that were attached, you'd have a completely different mindset and connection to it.
That's it, man. Like it was like judging Christianity and being put off from God because of Christians is like not doing exercise because you don't like members of a certain gym. It's like not a whole reason to just throw the whole
Great
thing
analogy.
out.
That's cool.
And I think, you know, for such a long time there, I was living my life like, even though I believe there was some sort of God created stuff, I was living like there was no meaning at all. Like if there is no God, and why have a moral compass? Because if
this is the point, right? This is exactly right.
yeah,
Totally.
so if nothing matters, then we can do whatever we want. There's no good and bad. There's no evil. Why do we strive to be good people,
Right.
if there's no good and bad? And I was living my life thinking there was no meaning, and that the meaning is what you make it. So it was all about just seeking pleasure. Everything was about, how can I find pleasure? Have sex, just became a drug. Get addicted to drugs and all that, living in just straight hedonism. And then after doing that for so long, became spiritually dead, man. Like by the end of my tether, like, oh man, I was like such a sex addict for so long there. Only when I was single, mind you.
Yeah.
Whenever I've been in a relationship, I'm very loyal.
Yeah.
But by the end of my tether there, like I would start feeling depressed or something like that, and I'd be like, all right, I'll go have sex. And then as soon as I was done, I would feel even worse. And it was like, that kept happening, and yet I kept doing it. And it was just driving myself into the ground. And that had to really move past that, and developing the values now of Christianity has like turned all that around and made me see it for what it is.
Yeah.
And it was quite satanic, really.
Yeah, to your point, like if we don't, if there is no meaning, you're right. Like what do we live up to? We might as well just be on the street causing chaos, looting, stabbing. Like this is what the world would come down to if we didn't have these boundaries or a moral compass, like you've just explained. And yeah, man, it's scary to think what the world would be like if we go, down the path of trying to eradicate all of the values that Christianity and religion have given everybody across the world.
Yeah, it is kind of scary to think of that. And there has been an assault on those sort of principles and those values, like especially the family and all that. The family unit has been targeted so much.
Big time.
And it's like that, you can see the effects of that, like a fatherlessness in that. Like we need we can't be trying to destroy the nuclear family at all. We need to be lifting it up and saying that this is the best example to raise a family. Like it's the way to raise good men and good women.
Totally, man. How has that process and your mindset changed your view on relationships and girls and things of that nature? You just obviously said you had a sex addiction. How's all that changed?
Yes, man. So going from having that wild sex life and not knowing how many people I've been with, like being with that many, it's like getting to the point now where I'm saving myself for marriage.
Wow.
Which is wild.
Wow.
Like I truly do believe that it is only for the person that you're married to. It's so intimate. Like it is such an intimate thing. It's never to be just shared with anyone and everyone. It's like when you do that, it's like you create these soul ties and entangle yourself
Energy
with
exchanges.
people. Yeah. It's like a big spider web of souls. It just gets very messy. And people get hurt when you live like that too. Like even when you say, look, I'm only interested in sex, even if you're straight up about it and not just trying to say what they need to hear to get in the bed, people still catch feelings and they get hurt. So, I ended up going to like brothels and stuff because I didn't want to cause any issues. I was just like, I don't want to hurt anyone, so I'll just do it on a payment basis.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I'm waiting to meet someone, and I think building a relationship with someone where it's not based on sex. I feel like majority of the relationships I've been in, the sex has almost been the cornerstone. Where if we had have taken sex out of the equation, I don't know if the relationship would have had anything to stand
so
on.
interesting. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to meeting someone where we can build it's almost like building a friendship and not having that as an element of it until we're married, and I'm so keen for that.
Yeah. Wow. When did you make that decision? How long?
It was once I believed in the gospel, it was like probably about a few months after it. I was at first I was like, there's no way I'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe that was like a cultural thing that they were talking about back in the day. It was more like that because it's more accepted. Sex is so big now. But yeah, now I realize that's God's design is for you to be with one person, and you enter in that covenant, the marriage under God, and then that person is the person that you be with for the rest of your life. That's what I'm hoping to find.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah.
I love that. Look, I think the overarching point about the values and the shift in character and even, the path of Christianity that you've gone down, all of us are flawed. Like no one can sit here and pretend that they haven't fucked up, they haven't done something they regret, they haven't done something bad or hurt people or hurt someone. We've all done that. No one's fucking perfect, right? But we need something to live up to. We need something better to aspire to every single day. Otherwise, what do we have? Like you said, what does life mean? What do our actions mean? And I think you're so right that if everything is before that level of connection, then you're just feeding that God-sized hole that everybody has in them, whether it's through spirituality or Christianity or Catholicism or any other religion that people follow or believe in that are listening to this, filling that with the right fuel, faith in something, compared to booze or drugs or sex or whatever your vice is, it completely changes your life in a really big way.
Yeah, and I think, like, no matter who you are, if you start implementing all the principles of faith, your life will be dramatically better and you will be a much better person. But the thing that I love about Christianity is, like, everyone knows the story that Christ died on the cross for our sins, but what does that really mean, you know? Like, it's hard to digest that. I know it can be quite off-putting for a lot of people. But in Christianity, what I've learned is, I thought people went to church and were good people out of fear that they wouldn't make it to heaven, you know? So I thought, you know, you got to do all these good deeds and be a good person to make it there. But what it is it's not, you're not doing those good things to earn God's love. You're doing them for the love that he's already shown. So it's out of gratitude for what he did when he visited us and died on the cross and took that payment that we all deserve. It was like humans needed to be reconciled with God for being so fallen. And then we had burnt the bridge to God, and then Christ became that bridge. And that's what I've learned. I love that about Christianity. It's not transactional.
Yeah.
It's about gratitude.
Yeah, it's powerful, man. It's powerful. Like I said, you from the last time we met, you're just a completely different human being, man. It's incredible. It is wild, bro. So much has happened in that time, of course. But let's talk about one of the other catalysts, which is sobriety, right? And I told you in the car, proudly, I've been a year and a month completely no alcohol, which, you know, again, although I'm going to say this, I'm going to say it was never a problem for me, but looking back at my life, every shit thing that ever happened to me was through alcohol. So
Wow.
I think it's a problem for everybody at some stage. But man, I've just seen such a huge difference in my fucking energy, my mentality, my aggressive drive at attacking goals, you know, my connection, spirituality, everything has improved in a really big way. Tell me about your experience from a physical, mental, emotional, faith standpoint through eliminating the vices of like booze and drugs.
Man, it's been a ride. It's like I was telling you in the car, I was like, I've been on so many different medications and stuff like that. And since I got out of rehab, it hasn't been like a flawless run.
Yeah.
You know, like I was still slipping, not badly or anything like that, but I had some moments, and I also got prescribed medicinal cannabis. And because it was prescribed, I was like, well, that's okay. It's from the doctor, you know, that's all right. And then as soon as I've found God, it's like I've realized that I can't do that, and I can't manipulate myself because I can't lie to him like I can to myself. And I've learned I can manipulate myself so easily. And that's a big thing that's changed.
We all can, right? That's why we suffer so much.
Man, and so like I was on like mood stabilizers and antidepressants and Seroquel and Valium, and I was on methadone when I was in rehab. And since coming to God, like that's really streamlined that process of getting off everything and wanting to be clear-headed and not be on anything at all. Like I've been diagnosed with bipolar and stuff like that, which I just don't think I've ever really had. I just think that when I've been getting tested, I was on so much stuff that I was just erratic all the time and had those sort of symptoms.
Yeah.
But I've never had that. And getting into kickboxing and like really consistent weight training has been so good. Like it becomes the fuel rather than the drug. You know what I mean? Like when I go and do like a 45-minute session on the pads doing kickboxing, and I like get pushed to almost vomiting, the rest of the day I just feel naturally high. Like I feel like I'm on drugs, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And that it is better because there's no come down, and it's like a pure feeling. It's not that artificial feeling that we've chased for so long and that ends up just destroying us. Like, man, it's so much better to go through life with these natural ones rather than, and the ultimate high of God as well, rather than all these chemicals doing stuff, just constantly wreaking havoc on us. You know?
Yeah, totally. How has sobriety and like eliminating all the toxins, alcohol, etc., how's that influenced your drive and determination with music and career and just your sort of fucking get up and go energy?
Man, it was interesting, like writing this album, I was always doing it on the weed. So I would have a little bit of weed. It was only just a tiny bit as well. Yeah, but as soon as I'd have a little puff of it, it would snap me into the zone. I'd be in this creative zone where I'd be able to write for about 2 hours.
Wow.
And I'd just churn out all these like bars and stuff. All these verses had come out. And I did that for the entire album. But then recently when I've stopped it, it's like that process of writing has changed now. It's like I'm not able to just go in every single day and write. I have to just do it when I'm feeling it. When I'm feeling the vibe, I go down there and do it for a bit. And then when the vibe disappears, I just go and do other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's changed in that regard a lot. But the touring and stuff, like when I did the first 2 tours after having such a big hiatus and feeling raw, not having the medication and alcohol especially, like alcohol can really make me come out of my shell. I'm quite introverted and shy, I think. Well, a bit of a mix,
Yeah.
you know. And for those first 2 tours, I was just so nervous and had so much doubt that the only thing that's going to fix this is a drink. But luckily, I just didn't do it. Stuck to my guns. And then after the first 2 tours, I started feeling comfortable again, back on my feet, and started being present up on stage and like knowing I could do it. And that has been so awesome to feel the love again, because those first 2 tours, I was genuinely like, if this is what it's going to be like, I don't think I want to do it anymore. And getting past that has been massive.
Wow, bro. Huge changes. How's that influenced your circle, your friends group, things like that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't have a big circle of friends. I've got like Pez and my mate Mo, who I really see quite regularly. But like before, I've really started seeing them a lot more. Like before, over the last 4 years, I was so withdrawn, and I was like, I didn't want to see anyone. It's like I was like, when I was really unwell, I would shut everyone out.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to see your mates like constantly. It's really healthy. Like it's really good for you to catch up with people, and that's been a good thing. Sorry to keep bringing it back to this, but coming to God has been the community element of it. Like that is so important, man. Like having weekly visits where you're not just sitting at home by yourself. Like I don't know why I got like that. I think it was a mix of the drugs and also the fame. For a bit, it made me just want to withdraw and lock myself into my home with my family, and that was my comfort zone. But it took a few years of like, okay, I want to get out of this comfort zone, but how do you do that? And the only way you do it is by pushing it out a little bit, so stepping out time by time, like the progressive overload, exactly like that. Just getting out of the house a little bit here and there, and then now it's become all the time. Like I'm really social now, and I love that.
Yeah, it's so good, man. I think it's so important. We do forget it sometimes. Having the right people and being around the right people. For me, it's like, I just love fucking genuine people, right? Like people that don't have any undertone of judgment, that they can relax, they are genuine. More importantly, they truly want the best for you no matter what. Like that true loyalty energy. It's rare to find, man. You don't have that in a lot of people, but when you find that and you can lean into that, it fills your soul in a different way, but it also strengthens you, right? In a really big way. So do you feel like you're attracting more of that now because of this new direction?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Especially having people to hold you accountable.
Yeah, totally.
Like people that will actually tell you what you need to hear and not just like be a yes man or anything like that. Really good, man.
Yeah. At least you know you can fucking trust those people, right?
Yeah,
This is the thing.
100%.
The people, again, I don't want to overgeneralize for everybody here, but the fake I'm the kindest person in the room mentality, when really the undertone of like judgment or I'll talk behind your back as quick as I speak to your face, like that, nothing grinds my gears more than that. So I think the more that you step into your courage and you can speak your truth and you're direct,
Yeah.
you attract more of those people, because the other types of people can't fucking handle that.
Yeah.
They can't stand being around individuals like you or me that now do that, right?
Yeah, I get that, man. And it's like I used to be that sort of nice person who wouldn't say those things. But that's not like I think there's a difference between being nice and kind.
Totally.
Like
Absolutely.
loving people is actually holding them to a higher standard and telling them what they need to hear and being honest.
Totally.
So that's like actually a really loving thing to do. And if you think you're just being the nice person, that's not loving. That's actually just people pleasing and trying to hold your own reputation intact. So it's like love for yourself rather than your friends.
Yeah, there's a good acronym around NICE. Nothing inside me cares enough. You know, when you're overly nice, you know, nothing inside you cares enough to tell someone the fucking facts.
Yeah.
Hold someone accountable to a better standard. Hold someone accountable to the promises that they make, you know?
Yes.
And so rather than be nice, be kind, but be the fucking courageous one, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And push your circle. Like, push them to be better. It's so much better when they're doing that to you too. Like, they actually, you go so much harder and you respect them so much more when they do that.
Yeah, I agree, brother. It's a game changer. How is the shift in life and everything that's taken place? You know, you've got a core fan base, man. You've got so many individuals that have grown up with you, and some may have not changed. Others will be changing with you. You're going to have a huge mix of individuals going through different things. How has the response been to your changes, and obviously speaking about your faith and the sobriety and the new music and everything?
Everyone's really, really loving when I'm talking, like when I'm getting my life in order. Like everyone is really digging that, the healthy and positive mindset stuff. They really dig that. But when I start talking about God and Jesus and stuff, they don't like that. But not everyone, mind you. It's like I've lost thousands of followers since sharing stuff on my stories about it, and I was expecting that, and that's okay. I'm not going to stop doing it, but at the same time, I want to approach it quite gently. I don't want to. Like, I'm really mindful. I want to reach people who would be either on the fence or completely shut off to it like I was. I don't think reaching them by preaching and showing them Bible verses is the way to do it. Because most people are just going to be like, I don't know, I'm good. But when they see how it can transform me and how it's changed me, and they might be like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was, then they'll be interested in it. But it's interesting about when it comes to the music, man. Like I've got so many songs where I'm like glorifying drugs and alcohol and being a loose unit and stuff like that. So for where I am now, there's a lot of songs that I'm going to have to just cut from my live show. And there's a lot of swearing now, where I've cut my swearing in half, like probably by about 98%. Like I'm dropping no C-bombs anymore, and they used to be my every third word. I was pretty foul-mouthed, and I've cut that a lot. And this album that I'm about to put out is, interestingly, it was written right when I was about to find God. Like I was in the process of doing it, but it hadn't happened yet. So it's like a really good stamp for the period right before finding God. And I think the music, I always just write about whatever is going on in my life, whatever's genuinely happening. That's what I talk about. So this is going to become one of the biggest topics of my my new music moving forward, but it's like it'll be after this album.
Yeah.
Because that was all done about 6 months ago, probably a bit longer than that now. But the reaction's been really, really interesting. Some people really love it. A lot of people are quite standoffish, and it's about, I guess, easing into it. Yeah,
Totally, man. Totally. I guess it's, it's not always going to be everyone's cup of tea. It's always about the way that you approach it. Interestingly enough, do you know, is it Sonny Bill, the rugby player?
Oh yeah.
Is it Sonny Bill? I forget his name. So apologies, but he's Muslim, okay? But he's a lot of his content now is him speaking about his belief through the message. But it's been interesting to see so many individuals now gravitate towards speaking their truth, no matter what faith they're in, and how they decide to do it, right? And I think everybody's going to go through that phase where no matter what they're speaking about, there's a huge portion of individuals that aren't going to agree and they're not going to support it. But to our point earlier on about COVID, it's like, listen to the message though. Listen to the results. Look at the changes and the impact that these things can make, and detach from the stereotypes that you may have forced upon it.
Yeah, and I think hopefully people will, even if it's not their cup of tea, that's fair, But I hope that they can appreciate that this has been like one of the best things that's happened to me. I hope that they can be like, it's not my thing, but good on you. You know? Like it's brought me so much peace.
Well, you can see that, man. It's I can tell how much it's changed you, and it's fucking beautiful to see, man. So I love it, and I can't wait to see you keep evolving in the new version of yourself, dude, which is amazing.
Thank you, man.
Let's talk a little bit about the business side of what you do.
Yep.
So the work ethic of the music industry and becoming who you are. One thing that I always respected about you, the whole time I've watched you and seen you in the music game, is that, there's a lot of people in all niches and businesses and industries that talk a big game, but don't truly live up to that or walk the walk, right? And I think the thing about you from the start, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this is one of the things that really positioned you at the top, was your ability to flex your skills. Like you would spend clearly hours and hours in the dark, like grinding your skill set, learning how to do and be who you are. And then you would get onto interviews and you would spit the lines, and you would do it. You'd go to battles and you would like show how fucking good you really were, even though you're scared of judgment, the fear of everything else that could have gone right or could have gone wrong. Do you see less of that these days in the industry, of people that are actually that fucking good and can really deliver, you know what I mean, rather than just speaking a big game? Because from the outside looking in, I think especially in the American music industry, there seems to be a dilution of true talent and a lot more talk and a lot less backbone. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree, man. I feel like for me, I've stopped listening to rap because a lot of it has lost its soul to me. And I don't know what it is. It just feels like, I don't know if it's the addition of TikTok and short form content that has just made people, instead of really focusing on honing the craft of it and really learning the skills, it's about going like viral and making stuff that's going to trend.
Yeah.
It's like that's what people are really gunning for. And like for us back in the day, it was like this obsession with becoming the best at it. Like
different mentality.
Yeah, every day we were like trying to level up and learn the different technicalities, like how to do rhyme multi-syllables and do punchlines and wordplay and all that kind of stuff, and master the art of it. Where I think it's sort of also changed too, because the type of rap has just evolved. Like it's the way people rap, especially in the sort of more mumble rap trap world, which, like, don't get me wrong, I like some of it. Some of it's really cool. It's more an improv thing. It's like they chuck a beat on and they'll start rapping whatever their energy feels like it needs at the time, which is really cool and it has its place. But it loses that real deep lyricism aspect of rap, and that's something that I would really like to see a resurgence of, is the lyricism and the content of rap being really like deep again.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully we can help with that. And I feel like, man, it's real interesting. I've been listening to a lot of country, and in country there's a lot of soul in it.
Totally, man. That's so funny. I'm going through my country year at the moment as well.
I can hear it in the car.
Yeah, we were listening to it on the way up here. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of soul in country. It's like they're writing stuff that really hits, man. It's like, it reminds me of when rap was really like that too. I think rap can get back there.
Totally.
Definitely. It's just got to be about making that impact, rather than trying to reach the impact.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I love that, man, totally. And that's one of the things that I respect about people that are at the top of their game, where no matter what they're in, what business, etc. One of the things I'm obsessed about is, you know, again, I'll talk a big game, but I better fucking act way beyond that to keep promises to myself, you know, to keep my confidence up, which I love. What about the work ethic side of things? Like, I'm big in regards to business and individuals I coach and share my knowledge with. You know, competency is one thing, but if you've got a fucking savage work ethic, I believe you can achieve so much more than most people at the top of their game. So what does it take? Because people looking from the outside in will think, 360, you know, rap star, gets to sit in his basement for half an hour and fucking record some tracks, and then he's a millionaire. Like, what's the reality of what you have to put in dedication-wise, mentally, emotionally, and physically to be at the top of your fucking game? I'd love everyone to actually know the truth about what it takes, man.
And that's a great question. So when I was young, my first dream in life was basketball. I started when I was 5, and I told you about my dad before. How he's just always been a machine. Like, he was just always driven to supply us a life that he never had. He came from poverty and wanted to give us a life that he didn't. So he was just always busting his ass, doing jobs that he hated, but it was bringing in cash. So he was like, it's worth it. And so when I started getting really deep into basketball, he loved basketball too, and it was like this way we bonded. So he started like training me before school, just all the time. After school, every single night we were training, we were doing exercises. He was like, he was instilling this work ethic into me, and that is what did it for me. Like 100%. Like, he taught me the value of working hard. That if you want to do something, you've got to go hard, man. Like, you got to go. You've got to be almost delusional with it. You've got to go that hard. Like, it's got to be you live and breathe it every single day, and that's what he instilled in me. So when I put that into basketball, I really went hard with it. But then it sort of, when that died off and music became the thing, I put the same principles into music, and it became all I did. It was like living and breathing it, writing raps all day. It took me from about the age of 14 to probably about 24 or 23 maybe, till when I was actually any good. When stuff started to actually connect with people. And man, even now, I was just saying this to Pez, I think my music has only reached a point now where I'm actually like, this is actually good. Like, I've been listening to all my older stuff, and it's like I can still hear so many flaws in it. I've progressed so much, but it's taken me a lot longer than it does take other people. So I've never been someone who's naturally good at something, who will just pick it up and get it. I've always had to really work hard to develop the skills. And then if I push myself hard enough, I'll get to the point where I can do it quite well. And that was the same with basketball. That's been the same with rap and just life. Every you can apply that to everything. But that work ethic of, like, even if I'm not naturally gifted at it, I'm still gonna give it everything, and I'll eventually get there. And the fact my dad really instilled that in me is something that I'm so grateful for. And I hope that if I'm a dad one day, I can do that with my kids.
Yeah, powerful, man. I mean, that's such a good takeaway for everybody. You know, nothing great can be achieved without that almost obsession, that dedication.
Mm.
And I think also people have this unrealistic view of what output they're going to need to commit to in regards to get the goal done. Usually you have an assumption of the output, and it's actually 10x that, and you're getting close to the reality of what you're going to have to commit to actually get the job done. I think the faster we come to terms with that reality, the faster we can let go of the laziness and anything else holding us back, and we can finally grow into our greater selves. And I just love that story from you, because I could tell that in the way that you show up to everything that you've done over the years, even when you were struggling with sobriety, or lack of sobriety rather, and drugs and everything else. You still were working a lot. You were still putting the grind in.
Yeah.
And even though that it may not have been the best version of you at the time, you could tell that discipline and work ethic was like ingrained in your heart and soul. So
Yeah, I think that I think I'm a bit like my dad in the sense that if I stop and I don't do anything, I just get too in my head and start thinking things that I shouldn't. So it's like keeping myself occupied is the way to go.
Amazing, man. So you got a new song coming out next week, I think, Back to You.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, man. So I've been listening to it, love it. It's going to be an absolute fucking cracker. Give us the rundown. What does the song mean to you? Give us the overview.
So it's like it's a breakup song. It's a bit of like an amalgamation. It's like I wrote the story about as if every issue I've had with every girlfriend I've had was in one girl, if that makes sense. So I wrote the story as though they're amalgamation into one person.
Yeah.
And that's what that's about. Like going through toxic stuff, where there's a lot of fighting and that. I can't stand that.
Totally.
I like things to be smooth. I like communication to be calm and, respectful dialogue. I'm all about like say what needs to be said, but do it in a way that's respectful. Also, like, when you've been cheated on and that's difficult. Having to channel like that from one of my previous relationships was really interesting. Like, yeah, that's not a good feeling to like be with someone and have them interested in someone else.
Totally.
So yeah, that's those things, and being with someone also who can be quite loose when you're not. Like if I remember getting clean. I think it was the first time I got clean, and the person I was with, we were both at different places, and it just caused this big wedge to come between us, because I was ready to live this clean life where I was making my bed and trying to, really get everything together, and they just weren't quite there yet.
Yeah.
And that just happens, Sometimes you outgrow people, and if they're not willing to come, sometimes you just got to let them go until they either are, or you just say goodbye.
Totally, man. Yeah, when I was listening to the song and I was reading the lyrics, I'm like, fuck, I feel like you've been watching me in some of my relationships. So I think a lot of people are going to resonate with that toxic back and forth that you can get into in relationships. But I will say this, based on that message, that I think we have to go through those evolutions of ourselves to realize what we definitely don't want and what we truly do want. And you can look at those relationships and see them as a negative, or it can be a fucking gift, and they can teach you more than anything ever before. Let me ask you, we've only got a few more questions because we're actually going to run out of time soon, but I'll keep cranking on with a few more. Man, is the new music you're bringing out now, what's the new, like, what's the intent? Have you got a new direction? Are you here to make a stand on things? Are you trying to do, like, change the trend? Is there something that you're coming into this with from an intent standpoint that's different to previous albums?
This album is very much like, you can't keep me down kind of thing.
Yeah. Empowered.
It's very much I was lost, but I've found myself again kind of thing. It's like very, and like it's trying to get the message across to people that if you are in some sort of funk, you've got to pull yourself out of it. You've got to make that decision and flick that switch and do it yourself. No one's going to do it for you. So that's very much the running theme for this album, was definitely that. And there's a few other like quite personal ones on there too. Yeah.
It's powerful, man. We spoke about this before in the car about how, so many people resonate with your story and stories like this where you've come out of a dark place. You took fucking ownership, you took responsibility, and you found your way out. And I think so many people need that message and need that role model in their lives to realize that they can change things, that they are in control, especially in those moments where they feel like the world's out to get them or they're a victim to their circumstances. You said before about, your shift in direction, that it's about giving more now and rather about you, it's about others. Through your music and I guess through who you are now and what you're doing, what do you want your legacy to be like now? Because I feel like if I asked you this, 7-8 years ago when we caught up last time, it would have been a completely different answer. What do you want your legacy to be like, and what do you want people to remember you by now?
I really want people to I just want to push the message that you're not defined by your fallings. It's interesting, man, that the faith aspect of my life is so huge now that I think the mission for me, what I would love to do is nothing more I would love to do is than to bring other people, to open them, hopefully bring them to God or show them what he's done for me and make them interested. I'd love nothing more to use my platform to spread the gospel and serve God now. That's it. Like, to make everything about him and bringing glory to him instead of trying to bring glory to myself, because it was all about that in the past. It was, and that's a very rap thing too, is like about being the GOAT, it's about being the king and all that. And it's like, it's at worshipping at the altar of self. And now it's like, the message I want to push is that there's more to it than that.
And through obviously helping hopefully potentially millions of people, right?
Yeah, for sure.
How does that humility, like that feeling, there's being the saying you're humble, but then there's sort of living with that knowingness and that sense of humility in a strong way, not in a weak way. I think there's a big difference between being weak but then being strong and humble. How do you feel like that's changed you over the last few years? Because I feel like maybe that's one of the other characteristics that has been evoked in you of late.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I was watching a thing how they've studied how they thought the alpha of the wolf pack was the one at the front, like the loudest, the strongest, but it's actually, they've figured out, was like the one at the back who isn't this psycho one. It's like controlling everything. He actually is controlling everything, but quietly. And I like the idea of that in a sense for men too, is like, it's not being the most loudest and aggressive one. It's about being a humble and gentle approach. Yeah.
But being sure and intentful.
Yes.
With that strategy, right? With that mentality and approach.
Being like a leader, I think being Christ-like as well, man. Like, a lot of people think of Jesus as a very soft, gentle man. He was very loving, but he was very outspoken. Like, he was staunchly outspoken and forthright. Like, he told it how it is, but he also met people with love and softened their hearts before doing that. So I think his example is one to follow.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like, if you want to look at what healthy masculinity is and what masculinity should be, is I think Christ.
Yeah, beautifully said, man. Beautifully said, mate. I've got 2 more questions for you. I want to give you a rapid fire round.
Yep.
Aim of the game, my man. Give me a fast answer. Don't think too much. We're going to be real quick. Are we ready? One thing you can't live without.
I should have been so quicker at that. God.
Favorite lyric you've ever written?
What's it called? The one we said, Incomplete.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Dream collaboration.
Kanye West.
Hey, that'd be fucking, that would
Man.
be wild, huh?
I'd love to work with him, like get him on the beat and on a verse as well. Man, I love Kanye.
Love that. Don't want to get too political, but Trump or Biden?
Trump. To be honest, I actually kind of like them both because they're so entertaining.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Biden had so many little gaffes, man. They were classic, and me and my dad would bond over them, like sending videos of when he messes up and stuff. I really like that.
Oh, totally. There's been a lot of laughs, and I'm sure there's going to be many more.
Yeah, Trump's got a lot of laughs.
Totally.
He's a funny dude.
Yeah. No one can control like the big man. Biggest misconception people have about you?
That I was an ice addict.
Interesting. Yeah. One piece of advice for aspiring artists that want to step into the arena and mimic your success.
Go hard, like give it everything you've got, and you've got to have almost a delusional obsession with it, and also trust your instincts. Like always listen to your intuition. Like one of the biggest things for me when I got launched with Falling and Flying into the public spotlight, I started thinking, because I'm new to this, maybe all the label and the writers and engineers around me, maybe they knew best, and not going with what I thought was right. And that, like, is a common theme for this interview is listen to your gut always. Like if other people, even if you've got 80 people telling you this song's bad, but your gut is saying it's the one, stick to your gut.
Yeah, I love that, man. Powerful. Brother, last question of the day, and as you know, this is about breaking the algorithm, this podcast. This message is going to be throughout all of the episodes. If someone's listening right now and they're feeling stuck in their life or their situation, whether that's their societal expectations, their own mindset, or something else that we've probably covered here, what advice would you give them to start breaking their algorithm and rewrite their past?
I think a big thing is telling people, like speaking to people that are close to you and telling them what's going on, that if you need help, definitely do that. Like one of the things that's been my biggest issue is keeping everything to myself out of not wanting to be a burden. So that, like, my life would have gone a totally different direction. I wouldn't have fallen so hard if I had have just been open to my family about my drug addiction and stuff like that. And just also what the other common theme is, if you are in a rut and you want to get out of it, only you can do that. Flick the switch and just start making it happen. And it's like the progressive overload thing is such a good concept. It's like the way when I was in my worst, I was overweight. I knew I needed exercise, but I was so depressed that I just couldn't do anything. I could barely shower, like the smallest mundane thing I just couldn't do. But I came across this advice that changed my life, and it was the 1 push-up rule. Commit to doing 1 push-up a day, because everyone can do that. Literally everyone can do that. And then when you're down there, you go, I might as well do more. So you're just gaslighting yourself or manipulating yourself. Do 1, get down there, then you do about 20, and then you might as well do 2-3 sets of that. And that, for me, progressed over a few months into doing full body workouts, and then in 6 months I was back at the gym, and that's how I got past that. So you can get past that really bad phase of like being so depressed you can barely do anything and you have no motivation to do any physical exercise. You can get through that, but you have to just make that one little choice.
I love that, man. So freaking powerful. There's been so many golden nuggets on here for everybody listening, and hopefully some of you out there listening to this are going to grab onto those nuggets and implement them into your life. But my man, firstly, I just want to say I'm proud of you, brother. The changes I've seen in you is incredible. I'm loving the new music. You're about to make a big freaking impact, a big splash. I know this year is going to be jam-packed with touring and a lot of awesome things coming your way, dude. So where can everyone find the music and all of the new stuff coming their way?
Yeah, it'll be everywhere. It'll be on like Spotify and Apple Music. You can hit me up on Instagram and all social media platforms to follow along the journey as well. We'll be everywhere.
Awesome, dude. Well, good luck with this year, brother. Proud of you. It's been amazing conversation. And again, so much gold to share. Thanks
Thank
again.
you so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.